Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I didn't get a chance to see this film at the cinema, which I do regret because I saw every film since the first one at the cinema, but I saw it recently on DVD. And before I get into the review, I'll just let you know what I thought of the previous films. I'm one of the rare people who thought that the best of the franchise was actually the first two films. That is the Philosopher's Stone, or if you live in America, the Sorcerer's Stone, and the Chamber of Secrets. I thought that they were the best of the franchise. I thought that they got the tone and the atmosphere of the films absolutely right. It was exactly as you imagined it in the book, and I thoroughly enjoyed those two films. They were both, I mean, even though they were both part of a bigger story, they both worked as their own films. They both had their own plots, their own mystery to be solved sort of thing, and they both had their own resolutions at the end of the plot, which I felt has been missing in a lot of the recent films, where every film feels as though it ends on a cliffhanger, as if only some things have been resolved, if anything. But I really liked those first two films. I thought they were like classic adventure films. The whole family could enjoy them, and the first one was a classic, relatable story. I mean, you could watch it and you honestly, you get involved in it. I mean, here's this boy that's been tormented by his aunt and uncle. He wanted to know his parents who died, and now he discovers this world of adventure and wonder. I mean, that's very interesting. That's relatable. But you just don't get that sense, I think, with the more recent films. The third film, I thought it was okay. I liked it overall. There was some good set pieces in it, but I felt that there was too big a tonal shift from the second film to the third film. I mean, you can barely recognise that they're part of the same franchise. I don't know why Chris Columbus left the Harry Potter franchise. He directed the first two, but then he left, and there was I think 3 different directors directed the rest of the films. The third film, didn't hate it, but in fact I even liked it, but I just felt that there was too big a tonal shift, and it certainly lacked a lot of what made the first two films good. The fourth film, it's been a while since I've seen it, but I seem to remember thinking that it had a very undecided tone, like it couldn't decide what it wanted to be. I mean, one minute you had really dark, horrific stuff going on, then the next you had like dancing and comedy and teen awkwardness. I mean, I couldn't tell if it was trying to be American Pie at some points. It was really quite. I mean, I don't think I hated it because there was some good parts to it. I liked I think that was the one with the challenges that they have to do. I thought that was quite interesting, and Voldemort's reveal, again, quite interesting. Then you had films 5 to 7. The fifth one, it was okay. It was borderline. I didn't hate it because it did, in a sense, it did feel like its own film. It had its own plot and its own resolution, but by and large, the 5th to the 7th films, I felt they went from, fun adventure films that the whole family could enjoy to dark, depressing horror films infused with teen comedies. I did think that that's what happened with the 5th, 6th and 7th films, especially the 7th film, Part 1. I thought that was really quite. There were some scenes in it that were just hysterical, and they were totally not appropriate for the type of film they were trying to do. So saying that, you can tell that I did have low expectations going into this film, the Deathly Hallows Part 2. I didn't like the Deathly Hallows book. I thought that I honestly couldn't tell how they were going to make a film out of it. And it's strange because my favourite Harry Potter books were actually the 5th and 6th book, but then I didn't like those films. It's strange. But overall, the Deathly Hallows Part 2, I didn't care for it. It was on par with the previous two films. I mean, there were some things that I liked. I liked Voldemort. I think they got him absolutely right. He's not over the top. Every time he's on screen, he steals the show. He chews the scenery. And Ralph Fiennes, I mean, I feel sorry for the guy because he's obviously going to be typecast as a villain till he dies, but he does a very good job as Voldemort. The scene with Snape where they discover that, spoiler alert by the way, they discover that he was a good guy all along. Now I thought that made Snape perhaps the most interesting character in the whole series, because if you think about it, he is a bad guy, he is a villain, he hates Harry, but ultimately he will do the right thing, and I always thought that made him the most interesting character in the series, and I was really interested to see what they would do with that in this film. But to be honest, they don't do much. I mean, the scene where they reveal it is quite good. It's quite engaging, but you would have thought that given that it's one of the few things they had in the book that was good and that they could work with, you would have thought that they would have actually tried to milk it, if you know what I mean, extend it in some way. But no, they kind of rush it, and I felt that was a big missed opportunity. They could have injected more emotion into it, and the flashback encounters between Snape and Dumbledore. I mean, I know this is a strange criticism, but everything's just said. They just say it as if it's directly read off a script. You don't have to work anything out for yourself. Dumbledore and Snape pretty much just exchange everything. They just say everything. Whereas, a good film, a smart writer would have found interesting ways to tell it, if you know what I mean. Like maybe make it more subtle, or not even ambiguous. Just make it interesting. I mean, when you're telling a story, you don't have to just say everything like a robot, if you know what I mean. The film overall suffered from a lack of tension. Like, it's meant to be an action-adventure film, but everything will be sorted out, and not just because you read the book. Everything just seems to sort itself out, quite luckily for the characters, if you know what I mean. A bit too lucky. Too much convenience as well. For instance, the bank scene at the beginning where they break into the Goblin's bank. When they get to the vault, they discover there's a dragon guarding it. Now, you could have had a really good suspense scene there where they're trying to get past it, not waking it up, and that could have been really engaging. It would have been easy, but nevertheless it would have been engaging. But they totally avoid that. The Goblin has a whistle or something, and that makes it all okay. You don't have to worry. And then when they get out the bank, they just manage to fly the man-eating dragon away without any consequences. That was quite convenient that it just happened to be there and just happened to not try and kill them. The wand duels in this film, I think since it's been a trend since the 6th film, at least perhaps the 5th film, that wand duels have just became overblown fireworks shows where there's explosions of light and colour that don't really signify anything. There's no tension at all in any of these scenes, because it's just whoever can point their wand the hardest, I guess. And it's ironic, it really is ironic, that the wand duel between Harry and Malfoy in the 2nd film, all those years ago, despite far less being at stake, despite there being far less special effects, it was infinitely more interesting to watch than any of the wand battles in this. I mean, since the 6th film, the wand duels in these films have started to look as if they're filmed by John Woo. I mean, it's almost as if they're pointing guns, hiding behind walls and then turning round. It honestly has become quite comical, really, what they've started to do with these wand duels in the films. I also felt that there was too much focus on the main trio of characters in this film, and it was a problem that was in the last film as well. They don't really cover any characters but the 3 main characters. Every other character is pretty much a cameo. In fact, characters that were previously pivotal, that they were really central to the plots of previous movies, are killed without much time really to lament their deaths. And it does take you out the film, because you're thinking, God, did we not care for that character about 4 films ago? I mean, one instance is where the character of Lupin, he dies, and he was quite a main character of, I think, the 3rd film, and he dies, and it's like, oh well, It's like 2 seconds, a 2 second shot by the camera of just his body, and that's it. That's it established, and you're just meant to think, oh well, that's fine. The end scene, where it's like 20 years later. Well, not that much, maybe 10 years later. I honestly couldn't believe my eyes when I saw that they'd put it in the film. I remember reading it in the book and thinking that it was quite ridiculous. I mean, come on, Harry names his child Severus Albus, or Albus Severus. I mean, really? I mean, you're opening that child up to an awful lot of bullying. I honestly couldn't believe they put that scene in. It was forced. It was awkward. There was no real acting between the characters. And then they just played a little interlude of music from the very first film, which I suppose was supposed to make you feel nostalgic. Well, it would have been better had they put something else in as well, to make it more interesting in the current frame. Overall, the film just wasn't immersing. Nothing carried me through this film. Nothing made me want to watch it to the end, other than the fact that this is a series that I've watched now for 10 years, and I want to see how it ends. The film just wasn't immersing, and there's films out there that are bad. Like, I could make a review of them in which everything I've just said was applicable to them, but I could then say it was entertaining, and I give it credit for that, and I would recommend it perhaps on that basis. But with this film, it's bad, and it's just not entertaining. It's not engrossing, and the Harry Potter films went from being fun adventure films that you could watch with the whole family, to dark, depressing horror films infused with teen comedies, and they're all tonally confused. They can't tell what they want to be. I mean, obviously, I think most people will have seen this now, and if you're a fan of the Harry Potter franchise, you'll obviously want to see how it ends, and I would recommend it on that basis, but I did not care for the film at all. I think the only suitable rating I can think to give it is a 4 out of 10, and I give it that because there were some things that were good. I liked some of the actors do an okay job, I would say, and the special effects, whilst they're terrible, they obviously had a lot of hard work put into them, and you've got to like Voldemort. He's not over the top, but you can tell the actor's just having so much fun playing him. It's quite good to watch. So the film wasn't immersing. It was disappointing. It was contrived, and it wasn't, in my view, entertaining at all.